Welcome back to the podcast. Tyler Freel, the Fairbanks Tundra Talk host. Actually, it's not Fairbanks Tundra Talk. It's Tundra Talk, based out of Fairbanks. Thanks for being back on the show, man.
No, thanks for having me. It's always good to catch up with you
Yeah,
down there. I like the rebranding, the on step. That's pretty slick.
Yeah, I kind of got tired of the mediocre thing. It was funny, it was witty, but now with everything else that's going on, it's like, okay, that's
Yeah,
I'm not advocating for that.
yeah. No, it was no. I'm totally with you there. But yeah, man. No,
So,
I like it.
Outdoor life writer. Pretty busy with that. How's all that going? And you're keeping up with your hunting and everything like that. How's the fall been?
Yeah, it's been good, man. You know, I tell people, like, when I got hired full time at Outdoor Life, because I've been writing for them for like 12 years or so. Oh, 12, I can't remember, 12 or 13, a while. And just kind of on a freelance contract basis at times. But yeah, when I got hired full time, I thought that I didn't know how I would ever be able to come up with enough stuff to fill up a 40-hour work week or more. And that has turned out to not be an issue. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. I love it. But it is busy.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that Outdoor Life is no longer sending out a magazine, but the online just provides so many more opportunities. Like you're not hemmed in by the amount of pages and the ads sold in the magazine. That just can be whatever, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's you're not, and frankly, like, going digital was the only thing that opened up the possibility for my position, because I am not a trained editor, and I never wanted to be one. Although I do, like, as a staff, we always nothing ever gets published without being edited or looked at, and and so I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. As much as I hated English and grammar and stuff in school, it's treating me pretty well. But yeah, the digital stuff in some ways sucks, but really, how many print magazines is the average person buying anyway?
Yeah.
And it's really expanded our ability to there's no word count limit. You don't have to cut important or cool parts of a story to fill to fill a word quota or to fit in a window. So that's been really helpful. It's just been in volume of content. Like, we put out more content now than ever in print. You might have a couple, 3 big gun reviews a year, maybe, for a gun writer. Yeah, maybe more than that. But see, even if you had one per month, and I'm working on different gun stories all the time and updating old ones and doing stuff, kind of just in the field, all summer long. I'm going to the range 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when I subscribed to both Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, and it was pretty easy because it was like $10 a year, something really, really. But then you start flipping through it, and how do you encapsulate hunting in all of America, hunting and fishing in all of America in however many, 80 pages, 70 pages or whatever. And so it just got, a little turkey section, which wasn't at all relevant to me, or there was, fishing for crappie or bass or something like that. And I thought, well, I don't know, like Heavey's column at the end of Field and Stream was super interesting. So for $10 a year, I'll subscribe, just to that, or Patrick McManus. So now it's cool again online.
Yeah.
You can find your stuff pretty easily and make that happen.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and just kind of, like I said, I got a shelf full of old Outdoor Life magazines, and it's helpful to have them in hand, because when people claim that things, one thing or another about how things were back in the day, and how, what Outdoor Life apparently, if you believe what people tell you, like, didn't used to write about new gun cartridges, and it was just a hunting mag. It was a little more than that.
Yeah,
I've got the magazines.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you back on here is to talk about shooting and about rifles and kind of, and you go into a lot of depth when you talk to, is it John Snow? Is that the shooting
Yep,
editor? Yeah.
yep. He's our shooting editor. He was kind of in the line of succession. It was there's only been a handful of shooting editors at Outdoor Life in the more than 100 years. I think Townsend Whalen was one of the early ones. Uh, Colonel Askins, then Jack O'Connor, then Jim Carmichael, and Carmichael trained John Snow,
Hmm.
up as the shooting editor. So
That's cool.
unless John dies, I don't think I'm gonna I don't think I'm gonna be tapped for it anytime
Yeah.
soon. I might have missed my window.
Oh. Well, there's so much knowledge that like when you guys were talking on a podcast, you go into some crazy weeds that just kind of beyond their normal um, average hunter who just has a basic knowledge of stuff. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that angle. And you can go into the weeds a little bit here, but if I am
I live in the weeds, man.
yeah, that's where the good stuff is. So if I'm just an ordinary average hunter, high school teacher, I have a 270. It's a Savage 116 I bought in 2008, something like that. And
Yep.
uh, if I'm looking at all these new cartridges, I'm looking at new rifles and things like that, what would I get if I were to upgrade or anything? I have some friends that have the 6.5 Creedmoor, and that's really interesting. But, you know, the 270 is a 100-year-old rifle. Most of my shots are between 200 and or less than 200, 250 yards. A lot of them, especially during rut now, it's like 60 yards or 80 yards. So
Yeah.
am I going to get much from upgrading? Am I going to notice a difference if I buy a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 6.5 PRC or something like that? Or, I mean, if I like my 270, should I just keep it?
I would say, I would think it would be a hard case to argue for not just keeping your 270. The like in your hunt, if you're hunting primarily for like deers, I'm retarded. It's been a long day. Deer and black bear, like if you wanted something that was just a little lighter, because depending on the 270, some of them can buck pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, it's a 270 is an interesting cartridge, and it's been around for so long because it was, especially for the time it was made, it was, I think, the flattest shooting standard rifle cartridge, that you could buy for a long time. And it's kind of a magnum itself. Like Jack O'Connor wrote about, they're not, the 270 Winchester held about as much powder as you could efficiently burn behind that projectile, and what. There's a million different ways that I could just tell you that the 270 is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends on what you're looking for and what metric. When you ask like which cartridge is better, you kind of have to like go another step and define, well, by what characteristics and what situations, because if you're doing most of your shooting sub 250 yards, like like a 6.5 PRC, it will be better in some measurable ways, but it may not, like, you may not realize that
Mm-hmm.
that betterness.
Right.
A 6.5 Creedmoor is going to be close enough that you're not going to notice a big difference, except that it's going to be less recoil, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of factor in, what ammo is available now, because as much as we like the 270, yeah, it's not going to just be booming popular, and really anything, you never know. I couldn't pretend to predict what ammo is going to be available and not, especially after the last of the 15 ammo shortages we've been through
Mm-hmm.
in our
Right.
lifetime. Because sometimes 270s, been always a dependable option. And so, and this last round of shortages, I didn't see a box of 270 on the shelf for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
very popular, so they make a lot of it, but because so many people have rifles chambered in that, it's like there's a lot out there, but also a lot of hunters are going to be grabbing those boxes as soon as they're out.
yeah, yep, they sure are. And Yeah, so it's kind of, it's not maybe not a very satisfying answer, but I would say it's kind of up to you. Like there, depending on how you want to cut it, there are measurably better options out there, but for most people, there's nothing wrong. You can fix it if you want, but there's nothing wrong with using
Hmm.
a 270, and it's a perfectly adequate cartridge still.
Yeah, and I've taken a couple of black bears with it when my wife and I both got mountain goat this year with a 270, and mine took two
Yep.
shots. The first one dropped it, then it got back up, and it took a couple more steps. But Abby just dropped hers. Like it staggered for a little bit, then it was down, and that was just
Oh, that's
a good shot from a close distance. And again, both of those were closer than 100 yards.
yep.
So based on how we hunt, it's just been great. I've tried to convince myself a couple of times to upgrade or to you get something else, but I think, well, is this really an upgrade or is this a side grade? Am I going to spend $1,000 or $1,500 on something that, like you said, isn't really a discernible difference? And I could have spent that money doing a fly out or something, well, a third of a fly out, I guess, or something like that. So,
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it depends on like, and people sometimes I think they get very like emotionally charged. Like if I write a story about what, the perceived or real benefits of maybe such and such cartridge versus another, if they feel like they need to come defend the honor of their favorite cartridge, like I'm not saying it doesn't work or that on an average basis there's going to be a discernible like difference, but like there is a difference. Like the 270 cannot, is not a ballistic twin of the 6.5 PRC.
hmm
um and it's but it depends on how deep you want to go to like really sort out those differences, and what's the point at which those differences start to be meaningful to you. And
hmm
a lot of people, it's most average, like reasonable hunting that like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the 270. I mean, I would be hypocritical because it's more gun than a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I kind of like using that cartridge.
Yeah. You mentioned something. I don't know if it was this latest podcast with John or one of the previous ones, but talked about because the 270 is a 100-year-old cartridge that something like the 6.5 is modern technology. So it's like the best of the 270, but modernized. Again, it's not like just interchangeable, but why not, at least think about or entertain something that's taken all those years of tweaking of just information, putting it into a cartridge that could perform better. And if that's something that you're really looking for, then maybe consider it. But it doesn't mean that it's going
Oh,
to be better just because it's newer.
no, no, for sure. And a lot of these, we talk about like modern cartridge design and how it's like you could look at it as a little bit of an evolution of the short mag. Like a lot of the modern cartridges are shorter, fatter. They're designed around like super efficient projectiles, and if you were going to go like, someone buying their first rifle, and they're considering 270 or 6.5 PRC or 6.5 Creedmoor, or I mean, I don't think the 6.8 Western's ever going to like light the world on fire, but like a cartridge like that, I would say, yeah, you're probably better off to go with one of these modern cartridge design if you're starting from scratch. I don't see a reason to trade unless a person just really wants to, or you like having more than one gun, or you just find like fulfillment out of the I don't know, getting new stuff, because we all like to get new stuff on some level.
Absolutely.
but but yeah, it's kind of a funny and tedious thing. But even some of the older cartridges have been made better by modern bullets and modern components. One of the things that this is kind of a sidebar. One of the arguments that you hear a lot of people make is, well, like the 270 Winchester versus the 6.8 Western, for example. Say, oh well, it can't do, or 7 mag versus 7 PRC. Well, it can't do any. 7 PRC can't do anything a 7 mag can't do if you get a custom barrel and hand load all your ammo. And it's like, but a lot of these modern cartridges, they're incorporating this just like bump forward in technology and like chamber dimensions and tolerances. They're bumping them forward to where, absolutely, if you're talking fact, all these things that you could match with a custom rifle, custom ammo. This is all like factory rifle, factory ammo, and they're just generally more accurate than a lot of
Mm.
the older cartridges. Like, heaven forbid, someone hear you say that too, but it's true. It's just true.
Yeah. What about brand? I was at the range June or something. Like I was trying to get as many shots down range in June, just before it starts to a whole bunch of people start to show up there. And
Yeah,
guy asked what it was, and I was like, "Oh, it's Savage 116." And he's like, "Oh, I like the cartridge." So he liked there was a 270, but because he had
yeah,
a Tika, he was far better off than my Savage. And I thought, well, I don't, man, this is my first rifle, and I've bought a couple others since then, but I just like the way the bolt runs. I just like everything about it more, and don't really care about everything else. And it's synthetic stock and stainless barrel
yeah,
and all that. And my wife has a 270 Weatherby, but it doesn't have a stainless barrel. It's like a great mule deer hunting in Wyoming type rifle.
yeah.
Open terrain, things like that. The knob on it for the safety gets caught there a couple times. My scope fogged up last year, and so I had to use her rifle. And as I was walking around there a few times, that it caught on branches, and so it went from
Oh,
safe to not. And that's not what you're looking for.
no.
And then also the bolt can get caught on stuff, and so that can open. But the Savage has just that thumb slider, which is a much better mechanism for
Yeah.
that. So outside of those sort of maybe regional choices, how important is brand?
I don't think brand is nearly as important as just finding a rifle that fits you well and that you're comfortable shooting. Things like having a safety that you like and works well for you. It's just there's so many good rifles out there that like just your personal taste and what works for you is definitely going to be most important. And like the Tikas, it's an interesting one because they're so popular, and they're a little bit above what you'd consider a budget rifle, but they're kind of like a poor man's nice rifle, if that makes sense.
Perfect.
And they're nice rifles. They're well made. They got a good reputation. They're generally pretty accurate. Although like my fairly limited testing, I had one in 308 that wasn't nearly accurate as everybody told me it was going to be or claimed they were. It shot well, but yeah, brand, in any brand can have really good rifles and bad rifles. There's even within just Savage, like there's some Savage rifles I really like, and some that I really don't care for, and some that are like extreme. Well, one in particular is extremely accurate, but also incredibly frustrating.
Which
to
one is that?
you know, it's just their 110 Carbon Predator. I
Hmm.
had got it initially to do some of this a big ammo test for 5.56 and 223, and just at least whether it's that particular rifle or the combination of that rifle and the action in the magazine they use, the thing just doesn't run. Like I get a lot of like bolt stoppages,
Mm.
so it doesn't always feed real well. But man, that's like one of the most accurate rifles I've shot, and it's not a cheap rifle, but it's. I mean, I was like, yeah, just a mind-blowingly accurate rifle. Shooting like, I think I I shot a lot of different types of ammo well, and I shot one just for kicks. I shot a 30 shot group that I happen to have the target still. 30 shot group at 100 yards, 0.712 inches.
Mm.
Which is pretty incredible. But yeah, no, I mean that's a long. I do everything in like the long-winded roundabout way.
Yeah.
But no, like I think having a rifle that shoots well enough for you to do what you need to do, and one that you don't mind carrying around. It's
Hmm.
comfortable for you to shoot like that. That's what's really important.
Yeah. So taking this to the next two questions, they're kind of interchangeable, I guess, or two topics. Ammo in groups. You've shot over 18,000 rounds. Is that what you've got so far this year?
Yeah, that's I'm maybe a little shy of that, but that's probably that. I think that's about what I'm going to finish at.
So that's you're spending some time at the range there. So again,
I
to
literally like broke my hand this spring shooting pistols too much.
oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So it's dedication to the craft, both of shooting and to the writing, right? It's the sacrifice.
Yep. Yep.
So, how important is matching ammo to the rifle? Again, if I'm looking at some sort of new thing, let's say I decide on a new 270 or I decide on a 6.5, how important is matching the ammo with the rifle? When people talk about rifles liking certain ammunition better than others, how do you find that out? Maybe that's the first topic, and then we'll go into 3 shot groups versus 5 versus the guy who shows up for the first time since last November and just shoots 1 shot and that's it.
Yep. Yeah. So to figure out how accurately a rifle shoots, or to figure out which ammo goes best with it, you need to be a lot of times the human is kind of the weakest link, and it's not always like you. There's plenty of times when you can be more accurate than your rifle is with a given ammo combination, because I've seen it many times. But the most important thing is setting yourself up for success, like in building a stable position at the range. I mean, you go to the range here in Fairbanks, I'm sure it's like universally worldwide. You got people showing up with their brand new rifle, like resting it on like a. I saw a roll of um, paper towels
Hmm.
this year once. I've seen all manner of stuff that just, well, you're shortchanging yourself by not setting yourself up with good rest so you can make really good consistent shots. Um, like if you have access to a shooting range with good stable benches, that's one thing. Or it could be just shooting prone off of. We do that at our gun test. All our groups we shoot prone off of bipods.
Hmm.
So it could be a bipod, but you want like, if I could distill it down into two things, you want a really good front support bag or front support bipod or bag for the rifle, and a rear support under the stock, like usually like a smaller sandbag or sock stuffed with um you know sand or whatever it may be. So like one of the ones I've made had like airsoft BBs. It wasn't the best, but it's really worth it in the long run to like buy or borrow just a good heavy set of shooting bags. Because if you can't be consistent, then you're never gonna like find how consistent your
Right.
rifle is. And you go with her. Try to think how in depth. I mean, basically, you just go and you shoot. Do you shoot different? I could get like really in the weeds, but you just go. You go with set up a stable position and shoot groups with different types of ammo. It's how I go about, and then I can kind of, as you compare different types of ammo, you if you're assuming you're shooting consistent stable shots, like you're gonna see a difference in which ammo your gun likes, because you could have 4 different identical barrels, and all 4 of them prefer different bullets or different velocities.
Hmm.
Um so there's no like one size fits all, but you also have to keep in mind that what your needs are for it, because
Right.
there is a good enough, a good enough for government work type of thing when it comes to, if you're gonna like, if it would be much more convenient for you to use the little bit cheaper ammo, and it shoots totally adequately to hit a deer or moose or caribou, within, to shoot them cleanly at the
Hmm.
ranges you're going to hunt at, then there's nothing wrong with going for that. But relatively speaking, if you compare your rifle with different loads, you will see a difference in
Yeah.
accuracy.
I was shooting kind of I think it was the Remington Core Locked, it was the cheapest. And I
Yep,
just figured that
that
everything was going
checks out.
to, it was going to be like any time that I was kind of spraying it around, I just figured it was me. And so, which on the one hand is good when you're starting off because then it's like, okay, this is something that I can fix because if it's my fault, then I can fix it.
Yep,
If I blame everything else, then, oh, it's just the bad ammo, this, that, when it's actually a fundamental type thing or it's, something wrong with how I'm doing it.
yep,
A buddy of mine recommended, it was Hornady. I think it was the interlock whitetail. I think it was the first time I shot that.
yep,
And I was like, oh, this is nice. It was a nice, there was the bedded 4-point. It was my first ever 4-point and shot it right through the neck. I was like, man, this ammo is amazing. This is so
yeah,
good. But, I mean, it could have been self-fulfilling prophecy in addition to, good ammo. But after you
yep,
shoot more, you start to think, okay, I got some fundamentals figured out here. And so I can maybe tell the difference between that Remington core locked or a Federal Fusion or something like that. When I do go to the range and I'm testing these things, what's the 3-shot group versus a 5-shot group benefit? And then as far as time I should wait in between, if I'm not taking 4 rifles there and cycling through so the barrel can get cool again, like how can I effectively shoot groups? What's the benefit of the 3 versus 5?
yeah. And I had something to say on the Remington core locked ones.
You guys like those. You and John were both big fans.
Well, it's yeah, the I will say their core lock tipped ammo. I've had like mixed results where it's some of the more it's definitely more accurate than the core lock. And the core lock stuff, it is what it is. Like it's a more primitive bullet that um typically is just not that accurate. Those that ammo usually isn't. But and I had something else there that was like really smart, but I forgot. So and maybe if I can always like roll back into it if it occurs to me. But the to answer your question, we in 3-shot groups and group size and accuracy is always it's one of these subjects that like everybody talks about, but nobody is talking about the same thing.
Mm.
And it did occur to me and I just forgot it again. Man. I'm really slipping today. It's good Lord, what was I going to say? So I'll just keep going then.
Go for it.
So, if you really, the crux of any of it, if you really want to know like the true average accuracy of your gun with a given load, like you need a volume of data. Because and Hornady actually has some really good podcasts on this. That's just kind of, it's not really groundbreaking info, but a lot of people don't, had just never heard it explained like this. There's a thing called the way your rifle shoots, or say if you're going to have 100 shots through your rifle, what they call the pattern that it shoots is called the dispersion. So, and it's like a circle that's going to gradually get filled up. That whole dispersion is gradually going to get filled up with bullets. It's going to be tightest at the center of your zero, where your zero's at. And then that dispersion circle is going to slowly get filled up. Like the 30-shot group I shot out of that rifle that was really accurate is basically, it was really telling to watch that develop, because it ends up basically as a circle of one just hole in the paper. And you can see the outlines of edges of different bullet holes. So traditionally hunters, like, and me too, like that's what I always did out of hunting rifles, will shoot 3-shot groups to get a feel for how their rifle likes a certain load, and we'll use it for comparing loads and hand loading. But when and it's not a bad thing, a 3-shot group can tell you maybe what your rifle is capable of, but it doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story. If you shoot a bunch of 3-shot groups, it does tell you a more accurate story, and maybe that's perfectly sufficient for anyone shooting a hunting rifle. And some really lightweight hunting rifles, the heat does start to affect them after like, at shot 4 and 5. Our gun testing protocol at Outdoor Life and it's one of the things John's like really helped me in my understanding. And it's just so we do things the same way. We use 5-shot groups, which are it's just a little bit more data and it's a little bit more strenuous, and it creates more space between what might seem like otherwise equal loads or equal rifles. If all this is making sense for
Mm-hmm.
you. So it's not like that you would have to do 5-shot groups. When I get prickly on accuracy, if someone, it's very common. I've done this in the past. I'll go and I'll shoot, and this is what I was going to say earlier. So when you say, "Oh, it's got to be me," one of the things that I got to credit John with for teaching me and kind of pounding in me is don't make excuses for the rifle. Like,
yeah,
the gun shoots the way it shoots. And, sure, unless you shanked it, like, you just take the data for what it is. It's like the scientific way. And as you accumulate more data, if you shoot a lot of groups, and you maybe, like, in our like big gun evaluations, we'll take like the top 10 groups as a good representative of that rifle's potential, because that's automatically going to filter out like groups with pulled shots and human error. And even that's not completely saying that is what that rifle average is, but it's a good representation of its capability.
Mm-hmm.
So am I just like totally off swimming?
No, that's great, because I think again the perspective I kind of want to bring here is I have some former students who have asked me about what rifle do you have, and I'm thinking about getting this because they're using their grandpa's old rifle or this or that, so it's like their first rifle. And I'm like, well, just get something that you like. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money on a Christensen or something like that. And if you go to the range and the first 2 shots out of it aren't great, that doesn't mean that that's where it's going to be. And also on the flip side of that, it might shoot, so accurate out of the box, but those are just the first 2 shots. And as you get everything else in there. So, be on the lookout for that. And, so yeah, I think these answering a lot of these questions and things to kind of consider. So yeah, I think you're good.
Yeah. And coming from a guy like my first hunting rifle I saved up is about the cheapest rifle you could imagine, a Remington Model 710 that I just saved up for when I was 15. And I mean, I killed a lot of stuff. I killed a caribou just for kicks. I killed a caribou a couple years ago with it. It's about the ugliest rifle I own, but I won't ever get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I think, I would always, if I'd go to the range and, like the first group is just like the first 3 shots is a screamer, or I have like one off, I'm like, oh, that's got to be me. This is how the rifle really shoots. And I mean, I see that still in a lot of rifles I test. You'll have a really tight group, and that's the one we take a picture of and put on Instagram and like brag about like, this is what our rifle does, when really it's not. It sets us up for disappointment and frustration if we suddenly find it doing things that we don't expect, or it shoots a really tight. I can't remember. I think it was a 350 Legend, maybe not too long ago. I was accuracy testing, and like the first group was pretty damn good, and the second group was just phenomenal, and then it opened way up and then tightened back down, and then like it was like 5 groups that none of them were bad, but it just like, you could be like wondering what's going on, or what am I doing wrong if your rifle's not doing what you want. And there's human error, but if you can do what you can to minimize and just like take larger sample sizes and be a little bit more patient, you end up saving money in the long run, because that's what it boils down to for a lot of people too, is ammo's freaking expensive.
Right.
I'm in a kind of a fortunate place where that's a lot of times not a factor for me. So like I'm not limited by what the ammo costs to just pour lead down range and accumulate data. But when you've got the choice between, when you're trying, you save up for your rifle and you buy, you're trying to decide which ammo to shoot, and maybe you buy a box of 2 different kinds. It's like, just take your time, and I would even just shoot, shoot like a couple Fowlers and then maybe just shoot the entire box of each ammo, like give in increments, letting, maybe like 3 to 5 round groups all shooting at the same spot just to see what
Mm-hmm.
that total dispersion is going to be. Because if you're buying two different types of ammo, you might as well shoot all of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have some leftovers to really know like maybe what you want to do. And there's different ways to do this. Like you don't have to like totally follow what I'm saying, because half of what I'm saying I'm making up as I go. But if it's making sense that like patient like accumulation of data can save you money in the long, and it's like guys working up hand loads. Like you can waste so much time and gunpowder and primers and chasing something when really it's an issue you could have figured out, like if you just took some time to shoot more ammo right at the very beginning. And group like the cooling time, like I like to shoot 5-shot groups pretty much with any rifle. Some rifles get really hot, and it's just I like to let them cool down at least to where between groups, at least to where it doesn't feel very hot, like the up around the chamber and whatnot. You can get little chamber fans to blow air down them. What I've done at time when it's hot out at the range in the summer, and I've got like a paper straw barreled like cheap rifle that's just screaming hot, and I've learned the hard way of like chasing a really hot barrel on some of those. It just nothing good happens. So I'll put it in my truck with the AC on, like the action open, blowing on it, just to take a little bit of extra time to make sure it gets cool. Even sometimes if you could put it in the shade, it seems like they cool down more quickly if you can lean them up with a chamber open, so that you get like kind of a chimney sort of drafting, pulling
Right.
air up through the chamber and out the muzzle. But yeah, that is the biggest thing. You can shoot reasonable groups, but it's usually wise to let your barrel cool down, between 3 or 5 shot groups. Just because some rifles really will start to do wonky stuff. And if you got a rifle that's wandering outside of its like normal parameters, like you're just wasting ammo and
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I think that, that the application thing is so stinking important. And that's, if you buy one of those really expensive rifles and really expensive ammo, to find out what the rifle can do, that's cool. You spend all that extra money, but if the application is going to be just 65, 85 yard shots in the rut in muskegs, and then the occasional alpine hunt, then like you don't necessarily need that. If you want that, then go for it. But
Yep.
really, it doesn't matter a whole lot. And that's one of the things that when I was talking myself into buying something else, I thought, all right, well, when it comes to alpine deer, when it comes to alpine mountain goat, I got plenty of rifle with my 270, but I have to pick it right. I have to make sure that I make a good shot, because I don't want a mountain goat going off the cliff. I don't want a deer going off a cliff. And so do I have a
Yep.
rifle that can do that? And if I do, then that's great. I'm going to spend that money on a new sleeping bag or a hot tent or something like that.
Yeah. And frankly, like mountain goats especially are kind of a wild card, as like the first one I ever shot was with my 375, and I still had to shoot the thing twice. Like it was, sometimes they just, you can't, and a lot of people in their caliber selection get really wrapped up in like what they expect the animal to do when they shoot them, when there's just like a certain unknown and wild card in that. Like the best you can do is just make a good killing shot on them.
Yeah.
Like what they do is going to be up to them, and there's only so much, you can really do. But yeah, like something like a 270 is an excellent gun. Like you get good bullets. I would shoot a brown bear with them without
Hmm.
much hesitation, without much thought or hesitation.
Yeah.
Um,
When my wife and I were going on the mountain goat hunt, I'd said, previous mountain goat hunts I'd been on, that Buddy needed, 3 shots with a 300 win. mags. So I just said, hey, just be prepared to use all three. Sometimes it'll
Yep.
just drop and get back up. And so as she was getting in the crosshairs, and I didn't want to like make her nervous or anything, but I just wanted to remind her, I guess. And so I just said, be prepared to use all three in the calmest sort of, don't
Yep.
get frantic, because there was a mule deer situation where I apparently was so excited for her to shoot this nice mule deer that I almost made her
Yeah.
panic. She's like, I just need you to
Yeah.
be calm right now. I was like, sorry, sorry. And she made a great
Yep.
shot on it. So I have total faith in her shooting. So I was as calm as possible. I said, be ready for all three. But she just hit it right in the heart, and the thing just kind of reared up and then
Nice.
fell. I was like, all right, there you go. Mine, of course,
That's
took two.
awesome.
But yeah, she smoked it. It was awesome. Um,
Oh, that's awesome. That reminds me of my buddy Frank's, story. Yeah, like him getting wound up when his girlfriend was shooting her sheep. It's like, you got to shoot it again. Stop yelling at me. You know?
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the areas in which I've improved. I think as a husband is the not getting so excited in that, or just staying excited, but channeling it or filtering it or whatever needs to happen so that the focus can remain and I don't get overly excited.
yep, for sure.
So you guys had a pretty good year. You and Frank doubled on sheep, and then
Yep.
that's the first time in a couple of years, right? Do you typically go, or how many years have you gotten sheep and then got caribou, then got moose? That's kind of a iconic Alaska trifecta.
Yeah, I didn't go caribou hunting at all this year, but it had been it'd been 2 years since we got sheep, and yeah, no, I mean normally, yeah, it was kind of odd. I'd gone there a year here and there, but it hadn't been like two. It hadn't been two ever. I don't think ever had I gone 2 years and not gotten a sheep. And so that, yeah, that was nice. And ironically, like the last three times Frank and I have shot sheep, we've doubled, like shot two rams out of the same band.
Hmm.
Um, this time we each had our own rifles, but which was pretty good. But yeah, we did that, and Frank kind of, Moose Camp was great. It was, man, maybe seemed a little slow, but like, it was, we still had chances at two bulls, and Frank ultimately passed on a little one that we still had a few days left to hunt, and yeah, it just didn't work out for a bigger one this year.
Hmm.
But no, it was a good time. And yeah, didn't even make it out caribou hunting yet, and probably won't at this rate. I'm going deer hunting in Kansas
Oh, nice.
here in a few weeks, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's nice to get out of the state if you have good opportunities. I really enjoyed the mule deer hunting just because it was really cold.
Yeah,
It was maybe 3 years ago now that my wife and I went, but it's so nice to when the sun comes up. If there was any snow, it's going to melt away, and you can get dry, and you can be warm, and you can walk up these hills. I remember we were
yeah.
going to go up and over this hill, and I was like, man, this is pretty steep. I was just looking at it on X, and I thought, oh, these contours are 25 feet. They're not 100 like they are down here. This is no
Oh,
sweat. This is so easy. But
well,
yeah, just so
and
different.
the
You can
yeah,
see out of the woods. Man, it's nice.
and the dry ground. Like I was recently I flew down to Montana last week actually, and flying in there, I'm looking down. I'm like, man, you could walk everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When we were up on that caribou hunt in September, there was a spot that we were going to go to get picked up, and I thought, okay, there's a little bit of a trail here, so let's just stay on this thing and go. But it led right to this just swampy moose area, and I thought, oh my gosh, we can't slog through this. But you can't tell anything by onX. You just assume that okay,
Yeah,
this maybe looks like it's a little bit higher, but you have these stupid bench troughs of just water, and then when you get up a little bit higher, you can't find any water, so you have to find some sort of spring, and that's
yep,
super annoying. So like you get water when you don't want it, and it's just a huge pain. But yeah, the down south there, you're not going to have any water except where it's going to be in the creek. You know exactly where it is. There's probably going to be a lot of cow manure in it, so you probably want to filter it or boil it or something like that. But it's a nice change of
yeah,
pace.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. So it's and I hadn't really done much hunting, out of Alaska till since I was a kid till a few years ago, and it's through work, but it's kind of a I don't know, kind of a fun the media hunts I've had the chance to go on are just kind of a fun way to go like see more of the country, and it's a lot. I find it's a lot lower stress for me than my own hunts that I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of need to shoot a moose this year, or just the amount of effort and organization you're putting into going sheep hunting, and some people are like, some people feel on these type of hunts, it seems like some people like feel the need to shoot the first thing they can just because they're there. Where
Hmm.
I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like I feel less pressure because this isn't my normal shtick. It's not my normal thing that I'm doing and had to organize. So kind of like hunting deer in Alberta, or that elk hunt I got to go on in New Mexico. This kind of I feel like I was able to enjoy it a lot more, and just
Yeah.
the process, and be a little bit picky,
Yeah.
you know.
There's kind of that desperation that comes along with it. If you finally draw the tag, you have your 16 points or whatever, so you finally draw it,
Yeah,
and now this is it. And because of point
yeah,
creep or whatever, this is the one shot I have. I'm never going to draw this tag again, so I have to make it happen. And you want a good bull or a good buck or whatever it is, and it's nice to not like when I was down there, I wanted a nice buck, and shot one, ended up being pretty small for a mule deer because my frame of reference is all jacked up, but
yeah. You're
super
like, this is
super
the
happy
biggest
with it.
blacktail I've ever seen.
Exactly. I was like, oh, this is like
Yeah,
it's a 2 year old where I mean this is a total masher blacktail, but yeah, it's fun to do that, and it's fun to not have that pressure. But if you're when I hunted in California for 2 years, it's a 3 week season. And so you have these people like just desperate to make it happen, but you also have it's deer camp. So I remember going out
yeah.
there, and every road I try to get away from people, but just couldn't. And every corner there's another, a cooler full of half opened, or there's a beer on
Yeah,
top of the cooler, just everywhere. Like there's beers everywhere.
yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is not hunting. This is not safe. Maybe it's
Well,
hunting. I don't
whoa,
know
whoa,
what's
whoa.
going on
Let's
here.
yeah. We won't
Yeah.
talk about moose camp, but
yeah,
we
yeah. Well, I think
we
that's
have
that's the thing too. Like when you have um, tons of people around, like every
oh yeah.
50 yards, 100 yards, it seems like there's another little camp there, and you have people that are just like drinking throughout the entire
All
day,
day
and it's
drinking, yeah.
and it's California, and you think, oh boy, this could be a little bit crazy. But yeah, the moose camp program is something I'm super intrigued about. Kind of done the Hall Road, done some of these other cool hunts, but that moose camp is something I haven't experienced, and it looks pretty sweet. But you just got to have a
It
lot of toys to get in there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a but it is a lot. It is a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort to get all that stuff. I mean, yeah, it takes us like, I mean, we maybe had like 3.5 days, of like pre work and hauling stuff before you ever go into hunt.
Hmm. And then
Um,
it's like a what 7-10 day minimum that you go out there.
yeah, we pretty much always like plan on 10 days, and I think we stayed like a day extra this time. The year before we stayed, we usually have plenty of food and beer for like a couple extra days if we need to. But yeah, I think sometimes we've like killed two bulls in about 7 or 8 days, and so yeah, like last year, we had a couple opportunities, but we ended up not getting anything and staying in there till like the end of the season. But it's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to not have to like. I like the alpine. I like getting up there. I like doing the hike. I love all that stuff. But man,
Yep.
there's really something to be said for not having to be rushed. And now that we got one of those seek outside hot tents, so those stinking dark. Well, I shouldn't say like dark down here is not anything compared to your dark up there. But when the sun's setting at 4:30, and you got
Yeah.
a lot of time in the tent when you can stay warm, when you can stand up, it's super nice to just have a chill, relaxed, comfortable camp. It does not everything has to be hardcore, badass minimalist.
Yeah, no, that's that, and having just a hot tent, man, it makes things so nice. Just elevates your comfort level
Yeah.
tremendously. In it, as much as anything, like, we joke about how how comfortable we make our moose camp, and it is pretty comfortable, but really it lets us hunt pretty diligently. Pretty much. I mean, you don't have. There's a lot of daylight, so you're getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and walking a mile down to where you're calling and calling for hours, and then being able to go back and make a big hot breakfast and take a nap before you go, with a wood stove before you go back down to hunt till it's dark again, and then come back, crack a couple beers, and heat up some food, and it's 11 o'clock by the time you're crawling in your sleeping bag. Just having that wood stove and a few amenities to where you can get quality sleep and quality rest like during the day to catch up. Yeah, it makes it so much easier to put
Yeah.
up with the the boredom and the just constant effort you have to put out to call one in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to have fun. It doesn't, not everything has to be an unnecessary suck fest. That is,
Nope.
speaking of like lower 48 hunts, it always seems like the Michigan white-tailed deer camp. It seems like that's kind of the area where people have just these great experiences at a cabin or a shack or whatever.
Yeah.
And the family, you get invited to it, and it seems like it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you got for the winter?
Not a whole lot, man. I said just going to Kansas here before too long, and hopefully get another whitetail, and that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna try to take the kids ice fishing a bunch, and um, I've got plenty of work to do. I kind of switch into handgun mode a lot during
Mm.
the winter because I can just shoot them indoors and dump a bunch of rounds down range. But yeah, I mean, it's work. Work never slows down. I gotta already starting to prep for. I don't have to go to very many trade shows, thank God. But um, I've got to go to. I have to go to SHOT Show, and then it'll be. I'm already starting to compile stuff and keep an eye out. Press releases, new guns for our annual gun test in the spring, and yeah, it's I've been since my kids have been small, I haven't been out trapping much, and I mean, well, for cats are down right now anyway, but like a part of me, I'll get back into the trapping here one of these days, but I am not going to have any problem staying busy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. You have to have something to get through the winters, and I imagine it's that much more important up there because you have less daylight. But if you don't have something to get you through the winters, then I mean, it sucks pretty good to to live up here. So I have to have some hobbies.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine just sitting around being bored, like hating life because it's dark.
Yeah,
At least if anything, I like being as busy as I am because it just makes things go very, very quickly, sometimes too quickly.
yeah. Harrison talks about how he could never live down here because it's gray and it rains so much. So we'll have like today at like sixth hour, it was 2:30 and it looked like it was about ready to have be sunset because it was so
Yeah.
dark and it was the clouds were so dense and it was raining and it was just miserable. So
Yep.
you guys at least get to see the blue sky and there's sun. There's no heat, but at least you get to see the
Yeah.
blue sky and sun. So it's your trade offs. It's I guess it's in some ways pick your poison, but also the benefits of living up here is it's definitely worth it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wherever you're at, that's like no. There's no free lunch. You got to put up with some kind of BS to
Yeah.
enjoy reap the benefits. But yeah, let's say it's don't have any crazy plans going into winter, but I'm sure it's gonna go quick again.
Yeah. Cool. So, Tundra Talk is the podcast available everywhere. Outdoor Life is the website with Tyler's stuff on there. Where can people buy a new Tundra Talk hoodie, and what do you got coming out with that?
Well, it's much to the ado of or the woes of people like wanting hoodies. I've been slacking for a long while on getting on just getting a new batch ordered. I do have a batch of the green bunny boot hoodies in the works, and you can thank Steve Ranella for that. But that's a story. That's a story for later. But yeah, I'm part of my not being out stomping around in the woods. I'm gonna try to get back on having a fairly regular regimen of cool goods to Tundra Talk goods to have to buy and whatnot. I don't ever want to I don't want to run a store, so I don't ever want to
Yeah.
have a big inventory. But I'll as long as people keep wanting them, I'll keep ordering them and having them made. It's been fun, and it's how I buy. It's how I buy half of my clothes. I just get these bulk orders and then keep like 3 for myself, and that's what
Yeah.
I wear.
There you go. Keep it simple. Cool, man.
Yep.
Thanks. It was good to talk to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
See you.